Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner for small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Are you a social equity applicant trying to save money on LED grow lights? Then here's some good news for you. You could get up to 75% off your lighting project, covered entirely by rebates, when you team up with a local nonprofit, Center for Energy and Environment. Since 2000, CEE has provided free energy consulting to Xcel Energy customers throughout Minnesota. Their team of lighting experts will help you get the highest rebates possible and take care of the paperwork so you don't have to. Starting a grow operation can be overwhelming, so take advantage of this free support from CEE. Go to mncee.org/GrowLED to sign up for your free consultation and find out how much you can save with lighting rebates. Again, that's mncee.org/GrowLED. Go get signed up today. And we're back. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Hey, Jordan. Hey, Tanner. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Hey, fellas. What's going on?
Another good week. Bad here at the Dabbler Depot. Happy to be doing another episode of Northern Lights.
We're seeding. We're session.
We're seeding. We're session. We got a big episode today. We got some news we're going to be talking about, some funny stories, some not so funny stories. A little bit later, we got a great interview with Curtis White. Curtis White. People definitely should listen through all the way to that interview. It's a really good one.
Yeah, shout out to Double Up Wholesale. Yeah.
Cool hearing a little bit more about that back end of the industry that keeps everything running. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be doing some more Tanner's Terp tasting. We got some jars that we're excited to share with you. And then at the end, of course, we got our high note. But how's your week been, guys? I mean, it's another week, another Friday. We're back here at the Seed and Sesh. How's it been?
Man, I've been enjoying it. I've been living with it, living with the weather, living with the baby.
Yeah.
Sleeping more.
Mm-hmm. Is she driving yet?
I've been going from like 12 like midnight to 8. Yeah, it's been good. I've been trying to keep a balance. Last night we went outside around the sunset and just felt it outside. It was nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we went to Target today. Just doing regular dad stuff.
Has she experienced her first snowfall yet? Like, has that been something that...
No.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, 3 weeks old?
I heard it's going to snow soon.
Yeah.
How old is she? Like
She'll be a month.
Yeah.
She's a month old. Hey.
Wow.
Happy 1 month, baby. Well done.
Yeah, she had her month birthday yesterday.
There we go. That's pretty cool. Well, congrats. Jordan, how's your week been?
It's been, all things considered. We keep the smile on. We keep the chin up. It's going. It's going 1 foot in front of the other. That's my mantra. It's a low bar, but it's my bar, fellas.
There we go. I like it. Well, so last week was our politics heavy episode. We talked almost exclusively about cannabis politics the entire time. Important topics, especially post-election. This week we're sort of stepping a little bit back from that, not because it's not important, but just because we've got a lot of other news that we need to address that's been going on in the industry. So let's jump right into it, shall we?
Do you want to start in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
I guess let's start in Minneapolis. That's the one that I have been looking at. So a news story that people have probably heard of by the time that this episode is coming out. You might have heard of Zaza dispensary. You might have seen their advertisements
storefront
around. Yeah. All over the place. They were pretty proudly and openly selling flower.
For like 2 years?
Yeah, right through their retail stores. And
allegedly.
Oh yeah, let's before we start digging into this news story, we should say the information that we're going to be sharing today is coming from a filing from the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. This is all alleged. Well, of course, the OCM looks different than police officers. Anytime there's government power being used, we want to make sure we're not assuming that people have broken the law. So everything that we're talking about today comes with that big asterisk of, according to the OCM, this is what happened. But we've got both of their filings here, a good 40 pages worth of paper. And I have to tell you about what happened at Zaza. So we're going to jump right in. For those of you following along at home, we are going to be starting on page 4. Now, back earlier this year, a long, long time ago, on August 16th, just about 2 months ago, the OCM came to inspect Zaza on Grand Avenue.
That was right around the time, just right before we started getting together in Modest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were right on our summer hiatus. I was just back in town, but OCM was busy at work. So they showed up. The inspector identified themselves and requested to be let in. And almost like out of a movie, the employee said, "Oh, yeah, that's fine, but I'll be right back." Again, all according to this document. The employee was then gone for a few minutes. During that time, the inspector observed the employee going into the office of the rear part of the showroom. The employee then let the inspector in. However, as the inspector entered the showroom, he saw, and I'm quoting directly here, he saw a female come out of the office and exit the building via a rear door. The female was carrying a bag and stated out loud that she was, quote, going to make a phone call, end quote. Based upon this, Inspector Lee suspected that the employee was removing illegal cannabinoid products from the store to avoid inspection.
100%.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think that that's pretty spot on?
This sounds like some Looney Tunes shit. Like the thief with the little black thing across their eyes with like the bag over their shoulder, just like out of the back door. It just feels like in this 1930s cartoon caper.
In this
Very
market,
so.
It really stands out. In the New York market, there's a lot of Zaza Lake Street cannabis moving around, So in Minnesota, it's shocking, and it's the largest case that I've seen the OCM put together. And what's at hand is the cost of destroying it. And so, and they'd be tasked with a lot of costs associated with this claim.
So now, OCM, when they were doing the inspections, they thought it was pretty suspicious that people were leaving out at the backside. So what they did is they stationed an inspector at the back of the door when they came back on September 6th, just to ensure that nobody left with illicit product. And alas, backpacks and bags were found with a bunch of illicit product. Shout out to our friends at Beeswax, whose name appears a lot in this report for, man, they said legal product, but the OCM disagrees that apparently a 5.5 gram vape card is not legally compliant in Minnesota these days. Who knew? My favorite line from this is, for those following along at home, page 6. While some embargoed flower possessed certificates of analysis suggesting compliance, suggesting they were below 0.3% THC, testing of the flower revealed THC levels far exceeding the legal limit.
And that's times the 0.3 legal limit.
Yeah, they were found with ranging upwards to 20% THC, which is, if I do my math right, above 0.3%. That's a decent amount above the legal limit for what hemp flower can have here in Minnesota.
And not that they've been hiding that product. You see beeswax products in certain markets all over the state. You see it at trade shows. They're unabashed. And so, this is a step in regulation for beeswax to be called out here and embargoed. My thoughts are, now if that product is seen anywhere else, it has to be pulled off the shelf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if you have those beeswax products on your shelf, if you're someone listening and thinking like, man, Juicy Kush vapes, I carry Juicy Kush vapes with HHCO, THCP, Delta 8, and Pineapple Express terpenes. Maybe I shouldn't sell those.
I changed my answer.
You're right. Don't sell those.
Yeah, I changed my answer. I'm sorry. Pineapple Express terpenes.
All right, there we go.
Not to cut you off.
No.
This is blatant. This is blatantly against legal limits.
Yeah. So OCM here is not suing to shut down the store. It's not suing to put people into jail. It's just suing to say these products that we've taken, the 50-some vape carts, the containers of pre-rolls, of flour, of Hawaiian haze, Bubba Kush, Blueberry, all things that's not hemp. They're just seeking to destroy about $20,000 worth of product.
Yeah, that's a sizable hit. Where we go from here, it feels like Minnesota is going to have a very regulated market. This is a standout case at this point in time. It's a large player. They have a Minneapolis location. They have a St. Paul location. They operate in similar ways from what I can understand. So
yeah, it's one of the first big cases of OCM going after someone who is blatantly ignoring the law and just trying to do whatever it is that they're looking to do here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, do we even want to include we got to show it. So we have a copy of Bloom magazine. Shout out to Bloom.
Yeah. Bloom magazine debut article.
Yep. Really excited. We opened it up. We busted it open, and main ad number 1 right inside is Zaza cannabis flower available. I don't know, man. They definitely do have a lot of legally compliant products that I see on the shelf, but sounds like a lot of stuff that is not as well.
Shout out to High North. They got the backspace. They're killing it. They do business on both sides of the state. If you want to be a cowboy and have success in the 25 milligram market, you have to play in the Wisconsin market.
Interesting. Yeah, so from here, Zaza has to respond within 20 days, so we'll continue to see sort of what they respond to. What do they have to say for having employees with backpacks found with product? I don't know. My favorite was when the inspectors showed up and said, hey, we're here to talk to this owner. They had no idea who that owner was. So lots of questions. In 20 days, do you think there will be a lottery? Oh, that's such a good question. All right, so let's set ourselves in time. So we're recording this November 15th, 45 days out from the end of the year.
November 35th. Will there be a lottery by November 35th?
No, unfortunately not.
No, probably
I
not.
think by then they will have scheduled a lottery.
Yeah, I like that bet.
And then I think we'll have it by December 20th.
12/20, bro.
12/20. All right, well, let's talk about some other news stories that's not just involving people getting caught with illicit product.
This was really interesting.
Yeah, so this came across my newsfeed just a couple days ago. We're always tracking, what cannabis consumers look like in America, what percentage of Americans they make up. And we can now say, according to Gallup polls, cannabis is officially more popular than smoking tobacco cigarettes.
Cannabis is up in women 17% compared to 11% in just data from 2023 to 2024.
Yep. Sizable increase.
Men and women. Men are more likely than women to report smoking.
Yeah. Those aged 18 to 34 were, sizably more likely to use it. 19% more likely.
Yeah. And now I fall into the 35 to 54 categories at 18%.
You got to bump up those numbers.
Wow. I'm here. No, I am. 18.1.
Yeah, but it's always cool to see that continual evolution. If you looked at the same study 20 years ago, cannabis would not be anywhere close to the numbers of tobacco consumption. But we've seen a total switch where tobacco has gone down in consumption rates, and cannabis, at least among those over 21, continue to go up across the country.
And we saw tobacco get ruined by capitalism and corporations and the downsides of how they were selling it. At this point, the MSOs are not winning. And so that is a differentiation. So as long as we keep it craft in markets as local as possible, we'll see growth. The alternative is widespread.
Yeah. And it shows that Minnesota is sort of right in line with the rest of the country. When Star Tribune, along with a bunch of other organizations, did that MN poll just a couple months ago, they found really similar numbers of consumption here in Minnesota. And so I think it just further confirms that there's a sizable chunk of us out there who are pretty regular cannabis consumers.
Trivia question, fun fact. How many people live in Minnesota?
Like at least 6.
Yes.
I was going to say at least 8, but yeah.
Sheesh.
Okay, but you're okay.
I'll say 6.5.
My guess is 1.3 mil.
Yeah, and I would go like 2.3 million.
In what?
In Minnesota.
Oh, people?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's 6. I legitimately do.
6 million people in Minnesota.
No, am I way off?
6 million.
Wait, did you ask this question and not
yes.
know the answer to
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
All right. Here we're going to invite in our guest host. How many people live in the state of Minnesota?
In 2020, the population of Minnesota was 5,706,494.
Dude, I'm way off.
Wow, I was being super cheeky earlier and said
Yeah, you're
6, just meaning
Like
6.
six people.
but 6
like
million.
Well,
That's-
because you said at least 6,
Which
and
is
I'm like
factually
he's,
true.
He's technically correct.
Sometimes we struggle at trivia.
Yeah, it's
That wasn't trivia. That was math.
In other news, the Bent Paddle Canna Lounge is no longer with us.
yeah. That was some pretty big news. That was the first sort of big Minnesota cannabis lounge.
Beer collab,
Yeah.
offshoot, lounge. Yeah, and we're still not seeing lounges legally or viably operated.
Mm-hmm.
What's hanging up on that? Like what? Why is that such a hurdle right now?
I would say licenses is the biggest thing people are worried about right now, because serving and insurance is not worth it on the hemp side.
Okay.
So you have to be full spectrum in your offerings.
Yeah, if you want to
Which-
serve hemp for on-site consumption right now, you need a liquor license. So breweries had this unique sort of...
That was my question. I was like, okay, what put Bent Paddle in this position that they're like,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what I don't know. And
That and some CBD beverages.
yeah, okay.
Duluth being up there for a long time, their growth allowed them to gain more space, and
I mean, yeah, they are a staple of that community.
yeah.
Well, so I just wanted to share, we got 3 graphs along the side that we're going to read the numbers out for those following along at home. Americans who have consumed cannabis, 2013 to 2024, we've got that going from 7% up to 15%. Americans who have reported trying cannabis from 1969 to 2024, going from a measly 4% to a 47%.
The 69.
Yeah, 1969, only 4%. And then we've got Americans that support the legalization of cannabis. In 1969, it was slightly more than 11%, and now it's at 68% of Americans that support legalizing cannabis.
It is a fascinating plant.
It is for sure. Well, guys, speaking of cannabis financial numbers, we actually learned some really interesting things. So it's quarter time, when businesses that are publicly traded have to report. How is their business doing? We here in Minnesota have 2 legal medical dispensaries. Both are publicly traded companies. And we learned some interesting data from each that we wanted to bring to our podcast today, because GTI, the owner of RISE here in Minnesota, and Vireo, the owner of Green Goods here in Minnesota, have both now officially entered the hemp business.
Are you familiar with convertible secured notes?
Oh, yeah. So I've learned a lot about them over the last about 12 hours since putting this together. And
It's interesting.
yeah, in essence, they're buying the ability to buy into this company. And the part that really, so let's sort of break it down. So GTI is now a sort of partial owner of Agrify, which is a publicly traded company. They do cannabis hardware and software and all that kind of stuff.
You can look them up. AGFY.
Exactly. So they, GTI went to them, gave them a big boatload of money, and then also has the 3 heads of the board of directors of GTI, now the head of the board of directors for Agrify. So sort of a merging of technically still 2 separate ones. But people have speculated that this acquisition came partially because Agrify is already on the NASDAQ, already traded in America.
Yeah.
GTI not yet there, just on that Canadian exchange.
You
So-
can't buy GTI.
Not yet.
No, but this would make it enticing.
Yeah, for sure. So the reason that we're talking about this purchasing of Agrify and GTI is because Agrify just recently purchased the hemp beverage maker Double or Nothing, which makes the Senorita brand of hemp beverages.
Never heard of it, but yeah.
Yeah, me neither. But it's crazy seeing how many different brands exist out there nationally that are doing this kind of stuff.
They're in 9 states already.
Yeah, and they made themselves worthwhile of being acquired by this larger technology company that now is also a hemp distributor.
That's hella cool.
Yeah, so GTI now partially in that hemp industry. We'll continue to see those senior-rated beverages expand. Maybe we'll see them in, RISE dispensaries here in Minnesota. They can technically sell hemp products, so it would make sense for them to sell their own hemp products.
Yeah, and GTI is a major player here. They're one of the 2 medical cannabis operators, and they have a sizable foothold in Minnesota.
Yeah. So that came out in early November from public data of acquisitions of companies, from these trading of notes. The reason that we talked about it being quarterly reporting time is because Vireo, the other Minnesota processor, Green Goods, whatever you want to call them, they've reported a wonderful $4.9 million loss in the third quarter. A lot of really interesting financials. They also are producing about 25% more cannabis here in the state of Minnesota, trying to gear up for adult use.
They are.
It was interesting seeing those numbers come out of there. They just got $10 million that can help them continue to expand in Minnesota's adult use industry.
If you lose $4.9 million in a quarter, it makes sense to get $10 million.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's really, really helpful to keep getting new money, especially if you can't make money. So the reason that we're talking about
10 years in the game.
Yeah.
This is Donald Trump's America,
This is
folks.
incredible.
Hey, bet on Vireo.
Bet on Vireo because they now, through their high AF, that's HI asterisk AF.
Excuse me? Did you just swear at me?
I did. And their Boundary Waters brand, which people can get in dispensaries here in Minnesota.
I like that brand. I like that. Yeah. That brand's better. The High AF did not impress me at all at Legacy Cup. It was a flop. It was bland for a company that well funded to come into the hemp space. It was not embarrassing, but it was bland. And so money doesn't buy you style.
Ooh, all right, there we go.
You can't buy swag.
You can't buy swag.
I made this myself.
I like it. I like that a lot.
10 years ago.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, swag.
You can't buy swag, but you can make it.
You can't force cred. I don't know. What other
street cred.
Yeah, what else we got?
You can't buy Riz.
You can't squeeze the lemon.
Shout out to Armstrong Cooper.
Armstrong Cooper. Oh man, I wonder what the weed scene is like there these days.
It's probably Golden Valley, it's
probably really bad because legalization makes sure that kids can't buy cannabis. Support legal cannabis products. Crazy to see 2 medical producers here in Minnesota now continue to
they grew 4,000 pounds. They grew 4,000 pounds of cannabis.
4,000 pounds here in Minnesota. We heard a little bit about the early days of what it was like for the company that is now owned by GTI here in Minnesota to start growing in like temporary facilities.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see that continue to grow into the huge market that we have today. And how much of that flower will be distributed to other stores? It was interesting hearing the CEO say that we continue to build inventory ahead of Minnesota's adult use launch, which may impact the velocity of inventory. They're going to be going through a lot of inventory.
Because they got $10 million. So they're going to take $10 million and they're going to impact velocity of inventory.
We'll see.
Near term. When will they open? Will they open first? I think there's a chance that they could open in March.
They definitely have the products that they need.
Yeah.
Well, more to watch on that. I guess, we keep talking about the OCM, keep talking about the work they're doing on that licensure side. I'm so curious to see as we come into the new year what this all ends up shaking out like, because within 45 days, we'll know who has the first rounds of licenses, at least the pre-approval. Within 200 days, we'll probably know a lot more.
20 to 40 days. Stay tuned to the Northern Lights pod.
Well, before we go, I do have one more story that I have to bring here. And I told you guys I wouldn't get political, but I do have one more. Donald Trump has made a new cabinet appointment in charge of regulating federal cannabis policy. Aaron Dupree. Oh, no. Oh, that's not. No. The reason that I wanted to mention that is Aaron Dupree made news again this week, launching a new cannabis podcast.
It's called Higher Ground with Kimberly Perrine and a third mic that we're going to be seeing. By the time this podcast comes out, you'll be able to watch and listen to the Higher Ground podcast.
Oh, yeah. Now, there is an event, guys. the day that we're recording this, going on tonight.
It's happening right now.
A launch party for this podcast. Episode 1, you could go and listen to for only $40. It's welcome to the world of making podcasts. I'm excited to see how many people pay $40 to come and listen to episode 1.
I have an idea for you.
Tell me.
A little bit later.
Offline.
Well, I thought it was cool to see Erin has updated her bio. We've long heard of her as former OCM appointee, and now it is Erin Dupree, self-described as a business consultant, cannabis coach, travel agent, organic CBT advocate, and professional networker.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's a lot, but I relate to it.
Yeah. I also just gotta throw in this as well. There's a newsletter that we follow brought this story to light that also included that her background is also in kitchen remodeling and consulting and running a cleaning business, which is, not bad experience, but did that make you qualified to tell people how to run a dispensary? She had the job for less than 24 hours.
I think that's the last time I really remember Tim Walls being involved with the Minnesota Cannabis Program.
Oh, we got to throw in the wah, because hopefully we hear some more action on that soon, because
come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast. Tim,
we'll
we'd love to have you on.
We'll talk about it.
Well, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, we've got an interview with Curtis White, and I'm excited for us to jump in a little bit more on that. And then when we come back, at the end, we've got Tanner's Terp tasting and our high notes. So stick around all the way to the end. We'll be right back. Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. So it's another month, which means it's time for another Seed of the Month with Natural Harvest. Casey, we're super happy to have you here back in the studio.
Hey, Tanner. Thanks for having me back. Great to be here.
Yeah, so it's November, which means it's time for another Seed of the Month. Now, just before we jump into what the actual Seed of the Month is, tell us a little bit about who Natural Harvest is. We were stoked to have you on the show just a couple weeks back. For people who maybe missed that, who is Natural Harvest?
Thanks. Yeah, Natural Harvest, we're a local seed bank here based in Minnesota. We ship countrywide, but our focus is on the Minnesota market.
Very cool. And you're a cultivator yourself, right? You're a home grower here in Minnesota?
I am. Many years ago when I was in college, grew quite a bit, took a back seat for many years. And then certainly, as the legalization came, it was kind of counting down the days until I was able to again.
I love that. Yeah, a study that came out from the state of Minnesota said that almost a quarter of cannabis consumers are growing at home in Minnesota, which I think is incredible. Shout out to home growers across the state.
No doubt. That's awesome. I mean, we go to events all over the place and we see tons of people, and it's amazing how many people are interested. And I think really going back, right, indoor growing has kind of always been the focus here in Minnesota. We have such limited time that, it's always been there. It's just, now it's out in the open.
Exactly. Now we're able to talk about it. Now you're able to have subscription services delivering genetics. I think that's pretty cool. So on that point, we talked about this a little bit on the show when you were on, but tell us about this subscription plan you have and how people can get genetics to their front door.
Sure. Yeah, we have 3 different plans. The Harvest Hero is our kind of top end box. It's $60 a month plus shipping. Budding Grower, It's $35 a month, and then our introductory plan, the seedling starter, is $15 a month.
Awesome. Very cool. So no matter where you're looking to enter in, you can get seeds delivered right to your door, ready to start growing.
Yeah, and it gives you a really good opportunity, whether you're new and not really sure where to go, right? There's thousands of options out there. So it's kind of a no-brainer, like, here's what you get, versus, even seasoned growers, right? It's something new and different and fun to try, and you don't have to, put a lot of effort into it. Let us do the hard part.
I love that. So let's get to it. It's November. What is the seed of the month that we got going into this month?
Yeah, super excited about this one. This month is Slurricane.
Okay.
So it's a cross between Do-Si-Do and Purple Punch.
Awesome. Two classic cultivars. Purple Punch is a really fun one. I had a friend who grew a cross that had some of that in the lineage and definitely came through. You could see that purple. It was really a treat.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm really excited to see how it turns out for people. I haven't grown any of it myself, but I did recently do Do-Si-Do outside over the summer that's drying right now.
Okay.
So super excited about that.
How's it smelling? I know you said it's drying now, but sort of the early initial thoughts of it?
Oh, it smells great. Yeah, I'm really excited. So.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm excited for people to get that box in the mail, to get those genetics into soil, into cocoa, however people are growing, and just get that growing across Minnesota. So if people are looking to sign up for that, maybe they aren't yet signed up for your subscription plan, where can they go to get themselves up for that?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Awesome. And MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com, that's what you said?
MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
I love that. Awesome. Go check that out today. You can get signed up, get those genetics right to your front door, and start growing. I'm really looking forward to that one. I've never grown Slurricane ever before in my tent, and this feels like a good excuse to maybe give it a go.
Try something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Casey, thank you so much for coming in the studio today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to have you back next month to see what seeds people can be getting delivered.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're sitting here today with the co-owner of MN Roots, Curtis White. Curtis, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. This place is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super happy to have you here. You recently made some headlines that I'm excited to dig into a little bit here today. But just to sort of give us some background, what is your introduction to cannabis? Sort of why are you here in the studio here today?
Sure. Yeah, so cannabis and myself has had a 22-year run right now. And I really came to cannabis as an alternative to health problems. And when we got into the health problems and really figured out what was causing it and all that good stuff with my lower intestine, we figured out that cannabis really was not, I'm not going to say the cure, but it was the thing that helped me subside with the pain and the efforts of having lower intestinal problems. So
yeah, for sure.
When that all happened, we fought the battle of trying to understand cannabis and what it was and what's good, what's bad about it. And that's what really led me into the cannabis, the whole business, to be honest with you. And then the fact that it's from a personal health standpoint, it's just been, I've dumped my whole life into it. So
I love that. Was that here in Minnesota that you were sort of doing that experimenting with?
Yeah, so in
the cannabis?
southern Minnesota, I was born and raised in southern Minnesota. We were born, it's a farm community type deal. So we were, basically raised on the farm, running constantly outside, running around like wild kids do. Or did. I guess a lot of them now are on iPads and stuff. But as far as us, it was just that in its entirety. We grew up in southern Minnesota, so marijuana was a no-no. Vodka tonics were okay in our family, but cannabis was a no. And so for us, when I started experimenting with cannabis and figured out it helped me, I went to my parents, like any kid does, and says, "Mom, I think this is actually helping me." And of course, everyone's like, "You're an idiot, 17-year-old kid. You don't know what's help. You're not smoking weed. Like, our family name is more important." So basically got told not to do it. It was the only thing that I kept doing, though, that kept helping me. So then when I turned 18 and came up to college here in Minneapolis for a year, and after that, my mom was like, "Listen, you if you're going to do this, you need to go out and pursue it in a state that allows you to do it," because she was not having anything to do with cannabis illegally, right? She's Minnesota, southern Minnesota woman, doesn't care what I tell her, doesn't care how much money we're going to make money. She doesn't care. We got plenty of money to live our lives, is what she said. So the reality of what it is for me to, is just cannabis in my personal life. I think it saved my life. And that's where, you know, the start of it came. And for my mom at 18, like I said, when she was like, hey, go. So, you know, I left. I went to Arizona and then met some opportunities in the cannabis space in Arizona, really, that were from California. So I bought a property over in California and went over there and started learning about that as I did my other businesses, and then came to find out that we could apply for licensings. And we applied for licenses and got a license over there in California, and really started kind of fumbling through what it was to be a medical cannabis provider from a state level versus from a caregiver standpoint, right? That state of California had caregiver opportunities where you could grow 50,
absolutely.
100 plants or something like that, and kind of learn and fumble through it, if you will. But when testing started coming in and the dispensaries started really opening, and then when recreational cannabis happened in states like California and Colorado, it just, I knew it was something that was going to really stay here. And the benefits to me of what it's done for me personally and financially in my life is I want to preach to the world, because it's been a fun, what would the term be called? It's been a fun run, to say the least, but it's been the most up and down roller coaster, top to bottom, left to right, I've ever been exposed to in my life. But it's also made me learn how to navigate through spaces that I never, ever would have ever tried to navigate through otherwise.
That's really cool. You were part of a really unique moment in cannabis history, not like people sometimes refer to it as like the gray market, but it was when you had people growing at home, not under any brand or any company, but just I'm growing at my house, going to a dispensary, showing people the product that I grew, and people are buying it and giving it as medicine. And
that's exactly right. And for us, we, as a caregiver, we truly started off, right? I'm a young Southern Minnesota, like young kid, right? I was 22 or 23 years old. So I didn't really know, I didn't understand like the illegal markets, right? I just understood what I got trained, and then I got a license from a doctor to be able to grow a certain amount of plants. And I'm like, okay, so we started growing that many plants. I'm like, well, this is a lot of extra stuff. Like, where does it go? You know what I mean? What are we supposed to do with it? And at the time, there was nothing to do with it. It wasn't like, oh, donate it to your local charity. It's you smoke it, and you know what I mean? Just shut up and keep going, or what, you know, like. So the reality for me, it got to the point where we made it a real caregiver, right? We would bring medicine to different people and deliver it throughout, you know, the state of California, in Northern California, ideally, that we grew for those patients, right? So the caregiver people, let's say all of us in here had, you know, 10 plants or 20 plants that we could grow, and we all elected myself to grow it because they're like, oh, Kurt's got the time, he's a master grower, he's really good at it, and he brings us the best product. Totally. Perfect. So then it's like, okay, every week these guys want an ounce. Okay, so in our delivery system, we went directly to the people, and then we had our people, accountants and people in the state of California check and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And they would come to us and say, we've actually never seen anyone actually delivering really like how you're supposed to in a setting of a caregiver, and how much we were supposed to take. None of that was ever, it was never timelined, or it was never really put. Yeah, it wasn't never, it was definitely never followed, but most of it wasn't even dependent on which county it was. Everything switched so much. So I always tell people that's really what gave me the foundation to be so adaptable, I think, in the cannabis space, because if you can't, you know, we all think we got a master plan. And most of us do. I mean, we really do, right? But when you get, like Mike Tyson says, right? Anyone can talk shit over the telephone. But when you get in a person and someone punches you in the face, you tend to listen, right? So like cannabis as a whole tends to punch you in the face a lot, right? Like really knockout blows, whether it's a financial blow, whether it's a business partner going south on you, or somebody thinks they work harder than the next person. All those things really matter in cannabis. So for us, we had a really good team that really no one had any egos, no one had any negatives, and it was never about the money. When we started, it was like, wow, we're giving other people relief the same way we needed relief. And then as the business started, you know, kind of going forward and perpetuating as a whole for the whole country, then we were like, wow, we could do this really for the rest of our lives, and this would be the coolest job ever known to man, right? Because a lot of the cannabis community is absolutely incredible. Like, you know, there's some bad eggs in every industry, but for cannabis people, some of the people that I've met, and the passion and the compassion and the empathy that they truly have is not like anything I've ever seen or met or anything, especially in business when we're all trying to, you know, be alphas in the business world to claim your little stake of whatever you call success or whatever that is. That's what we're really trying to achieve by doing it from the depths of health and wellness, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what recreational comes and goes. Everything that we do, especially with Minnesota Roots, everything that we do is basis off of helping the next person have a story like I have to be able to preach cannabis to the world. Because the more people that understand that cannabis isn't some drug that, you know, guys are out smoking in the parking lot, like my parents, like, and their parents told them, like, oh, that's bad, those guys are bad. Cannabis got me to stop drinking alcohol. I haven't drank alcohol in forever because of cannabis, and I don't say that to make alcohol seem bad. I just look at it as a health and wellness standpoint, and I know alcohol isn't the route of my health that I need, especially with my stomach, because my lower intestine enlarges, and then before you know it, it just becomes brutal for me. So the health and wellness of cannabis, and then really the people in cannabis, I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, is what's keeping me every single day, you know, head on a swivel and keep pushing and meeting up with guys, you know, like you guys and Canna Connect as a whole, and guys like the Doobie Dabbler when we did the Doobie Dabbler show. Yeah. It's just phenomenal people, man, doing phenomenal things with no one really guiding us, right? Everyone's just telling us what we can't do. So, you know, it's like, okay, well, is this okay to do? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Figure it out. It's your interpretation of the law. And you're like, so you're giving a guy that's playing around with marijuana the interpretation of the law? Like, what? That doesn't seem like it's going to be followed, right? Like, so
I think the one thing that we're all following is the plant. You know, we can create laws that regulate it as 0.3% wherever we want to draw the line. The plant isn't going to listen to whatever things we put on paper. It's just going to do what it's going to do.
And that's the best. That's the biggest positive that I can ever tell anybody in the whole world is of cannabis. What is the most positive thing in cannabis? It's the plant. It's not the money. It's not the people. It's not any of the semantics or the SOPs or all the stuff that we fight for. It's the plant. And like what I told the state of Minnesota is this. So it's okay for us to make money off of THC/CBD/whatever, but only at a threshold. So you're telling me that I can't have the threshold of pure cannabis to help me from a medicinal standpoint because we're too worried about putting caps on certain cannabinoids that are non-intoxicating. Now the THC, Delta 9, Delta 8s, all that, I respect that 1,000%. It changes your mind. It changes your active, how you can approach life or decisions. I understand that. But CBN, CBD, CBC, CBG, you're going to tell me those things? I don't care if you take 1,000 milligrams of it. You should, because your body's just going to rid of what it doesn't use, right? Your endocannabinoid system can only get so full. So that's what I always try to tell people is like, that's how I know cannabis is bigger than any business right now. Cannabis is more important to self-protecting self-care. Right? If Big Pharma is designed to keep us sick, right? That everyone says, oh, Big Pharma, there's no money in the cure. Well, cannabis, you can grow from home. You can put as much effort as you want into it. The people making aspirin, no offense to aspirin, they don't give a shit about what pills coming out at time. They just care that they're doing their job. Sure. If you can take your self-care, right? Let's say I get cancer. I don't want to put that out in the world on anybody, but let's say I were to get cancer. If you could tell me, Kurt, hey, you have the opportunity of growing a product in your home, if you're in a home that's allowed, to legally do it, and this product you could turn into a substance, say RSO, right, Rick Simpson oil, and then Rick Simpson oil, you can look at all the history of how beneficial it is, and you're telling me I can make that in my house for probably $5,000 or $10,000 a year, and maybe not cure my problem, but definitely put it in a position where I can see if there's benefit. And if there's not any benefit from that after 6 months, then, okay, well, hey, you got cancer. You know what I mean? You better call the big boys then, or whatever you're going to do. But if you have an opportunity to do that, for me personally, no one's going to care about Curtis White more than Curtis White. No, not my wife, not my kids, not my mom, not my dad. They all love me, I hope. I mean, they love me as much as they say they do. But let's be honest, right? When it comes down to you got cancer, you got a real decision to make in your life, right? You got to look in the mirror. You got to have a real hard talk with yourself, and you got to either A, go forward, or B, self-destruct. There's nothing in this world that's ever going to make me self-destruct. So in my life, cannabis is the opportunity to give me the freedom from everything, from an opportunity of if I can run a good business financially, if I can eat healthy and become healthy, and then use this as my self-care, whether it's I'm tired and can't sleep, I have back problems, knee problems, that of getting old, being 45 years old, you know, all of the things, or just working our asses off in our progressive businesses of whatever we choose. You know, that's the heart of cannabis for me, is that you can help, you can cure, you can heal, you can financially motivate. It's all from a plant that we can grow ourselves, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like super cool.
Yeah,
Like,
it's cool to be alive at a time when we get to be stewards of this.
Right.
Like, I'm growing cannabis in my apartment right now. It's pretty cool having that alive. I'm not personally growing anything though.
Sure.
I'm just creating the space for this wonderful, amazing creature to do its thing. And
absolutely.
it's cool to be able to live in a world where we can do that, not just at home, but
Right.
openly talk about it and share it with people, and hopefully soon get in a place where we can even more widely spread it more openly.
I can't wait. I can't wait till the state figures out what it is to be cannabis in Minnesota. I mean, and rightfully so, the state's taking their time, and we all respect that, because let's get it right. Right.
Yeah.
There's so many states that come out of the bat shooting, oh, we got this all figured out. And then 6 months into it, you spend hundreds of millions of dollars as an industry. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're not going to do this anymore.
Oh yeah.
Well, what about me spending $1 million on this equipment, or me spending $10,000? It just becomes where it's like, let's get it right. We support the state of Minnesota. We support the Office of Cannabis. We trust that they'll get it right. And in the meantime, we'll continue to put out low potency products that have been a huge success in our retail stores of Minnesota Roots, because people like the consistency and they like safe access.
Yeah, so take us back a little bit. Now that we're sort of grounding ourselves to Minnesota, you were operating out west. What brings you back here to Minnesota?
I was born and raised here. It's my whole family. I have 30 first cousins. I have 9 aunts and uncles. I always said to my family, with my mom becoming, you know, she's over the 70-year threshold now. She's over 70 years old. So for me, I want to spend the time with my mom and my stepdad and my cousins and my friends and families in Minnesota. I always did.
I love that.
But I believe in cannabis. And
you got Minnesota roots, if you will.
Yes, exactly right. So that's, for me, the Minnesota thing was, we probably, if we could have done cannabis here, we might have never left. But we've been pushing cannabis for 10 years behind the scenes with our attorneys and just with all the people that we have. We tried to get in the first round when Leafline and those guys came in with the Bachmans. They had the first test pilot stuff. We tried to get into that stuff. So Minnesota's always been my heart. I wanted to respect my family first and foremost, and I didn't want to go to jail. To be honest with you, there's a lot of things I want to do in life, but going to jail or disrespecting my family are two of the top ones on my list that I don't ever want to do. So
that's so fair.
Yeah.
Well, so now that you're back here in Minnesota, you're operating MN Roots, having worked in other states, what are some of your thoughts on Minnesota? You mentioned that they're sort of doing things a little slowly, but perhaps diligently. What are you thinking about how our industry is going to look in a couple months? I think the opportunity is there. I think, the Office of Cannabis, the people that they're putting in charge, are definitely going to have their hands full. But it's not because they're incompetent or they're bad at their job. None of that. Think if we were starting the booze business or liquor, right? How many caveats you don't think of, from whether it's, riding a horse drunk, and you could still get riding a horse drunk, I think. I don't know if that's even true, but I mean, I know you can get a riding a bicycle, because I saw a guy get a DUI on a bicycle. So if all those caveats for cannabis were in place, it'd be one thing, right? But the fact that we're starting something from scratch as a whole industry with a collective group of people in non-traditional business tactics, I would say, like your engineers, the best engineers in the world aren't coming to the cannabis space. They're just not. The doctors in the world, they're not coming to the cannabis space, because there's an element of well, what if I got in trouble? What if I'm doing something that I don't know, right? It's just too much of a hot potato. But 5-10 years from now, when legalization, hopefully under this new administration here in the president's level, hopefully they do criminalize cannabis like they were talking. I hope they do. You know what I mean? For sure.
And if they did, then that would be a great thing to really put on their administration. Now, I don't care what anyone thinks about politics. It's not a political thing to me. It's a item that's controlled by politicians.
For sure.
I don't care left, right, and none of that matters to
It
me.
would be a monumental Republican move.
For sure. Absolutely. And that's what scares me the most, right? Is that, a lot of people say a lot of things in campaigns, not just presidency and not just in the United States, just people want to get what they want to get and they're willing to do what they're willing to do for it. So I hope in the administration side of it, just from the business standpoint of 280E, for example, and the accounting side of it for retail dispensaries,
For sure.
it would take people right now that are operating at a 35-40% margin that maybe take home 5 or 10% of it. It would allow them to really, truly run their business the right way and get the advantage of being able to run a business with 30-40%. You go talk to any business owner in the world, if you can have a 30 or 40% margin in your business, that's incredible.
Yeah,
But in the cannabis space, even if you have that margin, the 280E factors come in, and then some of the other legislative props, I'll say, in that from a political standpoint is just what it is, right? We're never going to get over it. It's marijuana. Big Pharma doesn't want it. Alcohol didn't want it at first, but I think Minnesota actually is going to be the first state in the whole United States that got it right on low potency in the sense of supporting these drinks. Because we can go into any of our, like every day we get a report of our retail stores, for example, on the drinks, the THC drinks. And
For sure.
in our location in Elk River, for example, we sell anywhere between, on a slow day, 25 drinks, on a good day, 75 drinks. So what that tells me is that people are enjoying the drinks. Now, it's not just our drinks, not just our Kush coolers that we make, but we have everything. Every good drink that we feel like, because I drink them. So, you know what I mean? I'll tell you what I like. I'm a soda guy, so I love all the sodas. I love all the, all the other drinks as well. But in my personal opinion, what's going to save a lot of these microbrews and save a lot of the alcohol business is THC.
Yeah, it is cannabis.
You
for
put
sure.
THC in any market, within a year, 50% of the sales go to THC. In any business that you run, if you're not looking at what the disruptors are, you're an archaic business owner. You're going to eventually fail. So as a business owner, these bar owners, I know them, they're calling us all the time going like, Kurt, we need whatever you have that you do through your wholesale, we want to be able to put in our bars. We know it's good. We know you have test results. We have all those things. So that to me is once alcohol supports it as a peer and let's monetize this together, I don't think there's going to be anybody that hates the cannabis industry other than Big Pharma. And I think Big Pharma just is scared that they don't know how to monetize it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They've been in their business a long time and they got all the pieces kind of put together to where they can kind of not necessarily monopolize, because I don't want to say, oh, Big Pharma's bad. If I get cancer, believe me, I want to call, Big Pharma.
For sure. Well, but I think you raised such a great point where like it's hard to make money off of something that people can grow in their homes.
And I think that's what they're scared about. Is you can a cancer patient, someone told me, is $800,000 a year to have a cancer patient on the books for, like, say, an insurance company, right?
Yeah.
That same cancer patient, if they used cannabis, now I'm not saying that chemotherapy and cannabis are the same thing. I'm not saying that at all.
For sure.
I want everyone to understand, like, I understand there's a point where cannabis can't do shit for cancer. I get that. I respect that. But let's use that first before we put all this poison into our body.
Yeah. I think it comes back to what you were talking about at the beginning. I've heard the phrase before, anecdata, where it's like, I'm finding relief from this in my own life. I don't have a study I can point to, but I can say I found relief from this. And I think you get this chorus of people that have found relief from cannabis in their life that creates this understanding of, it's not the solution to everything.
Sure.
But cannabis can be something that you can use throughout your life, from wellness, from health, to relaxation, to so much in between. It's really an incredible plant.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the work that you're doing here in Minnesota and some of the advice that you have for entrepreneurs. But first, we're going to take a very quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Awesome.
Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. That's unionbankandtrust.com. Curtis, we were talking right before the break about some of the work that you're doing here in Minnesota, and you recently made some pretty big headlines by partnering with Off the Path, a tribal dispensary, to help them create a variety of different products that are being sold in their store. Talk us through a little bit about sort of how that relationship got started and what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, so Off the Path is our second tribal kind of dispensary that we've kind of teamed up with in a different way. And Off the Path is an incredible group of people that have done an awesome job at getting where they're at and stuff. So we teamed up with them on their packaging stuff and just really overall liaison to cannabis, just kind of knowledge and things like that. And more doing it as a benefit to them versus us. We're not per se getting money monetarily from them, but as far as working with those people on a level of, again, it's the guidance of cannabis, right? Like for them, they're tribal, so they have different rules. The Office of Cannabis doesn't necessarily govern them, right? But they want to be governed by the Office of Cannabis rules, so then they can stay within their confines and guidelines. Yeah. So on the tribal side of it, it's really different because every tribe has different bylaws per se and different testing requirements and different requirements of packaging and things like that. So as of the last probably month, we got in a position to where we were able to talk with them and help them and kind of guide them in the path of what it is and what the difference is, because THCA and THC recreational cannabis, THC, people don't understand. Yeah. So they're like, excuse me, what can we have? What can we not have? All these things. And as a professional in the business, obviously when you're dealing with the tribal stuff, it's different. So it's very subjective to the opinions of the attorneys of the tribes.
For sure.
And so with that comes just this, whole subjective matter that can we have this? Can we not have this? Can we do this? Can we not do this? We can't ship over state lines as far as certain cannabis products, but hemp products we can. So they really kind of brought us in to help navigate what they can and can't do, and then ultimately try to put a grow together with them to be able to help them grow in a kind of a little bit of a bubble, if you will, for them, because they're in the position too, just like all the other tribes is, you hear all these huge facilities going up and growing, and it's like, okay, well, if our partners at, say, Leech Lake or at Red Lake or at White Earth or at Mille Lacs or any of these people that get their big grows up, right? Like Mille Lacs is doing, I think, a 50 or 80 or 100,000, something crazy big, right? So, which is incredible. That's awesome, and that's what we want is progress within the growing, because then we can actually open up stores. So for them, no one's open yet, right? So it comes now as like, okay, do you put THCA flower in there? Do you put hemp flower in there? Can all this stuff be made from basically CBD, but yet make it THC? And those were all the questions that they kind of brought us on. And so when we had all the questions, we got to meet them and got to understand who they were. And they're absolutely incredible guys and girls that are over there. Their whole tribe, their whole community. It's just they've supported cannabis so much. Just walking in the dispensary, I mean, everyone's got a smile on their face. It's really happy. They're really pumped to have it down there. So it's just one of those things where our goal is to get a grow, and if they allow us to kind of intermingle the tribes with the state-run licensed dispensaries, we want to be there and build those relationships now, the same way we are with Boys Fort and their Ishkade dispensary that they're opening very soon. Which, Stephen, you know that even more than I do. The date keeps getting pushed back a little bit because of the semantics of getting open. But another thing that we've been there with since the beginning of them, and really tried to guide them in the right way of not overspending and not overindulging in the allure of the big spend to cannabis, because it can smack you in the face hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's I think such an important part of the industry, because there's been so many people that I've spoken with over the past couple of years that said, I want to open a dispensary. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, like, do you know what kind of stuff you'd sell there? Like weed.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot more than just weed.
Yeah, no, that's 100% it. And we want all those people, those novice people like that, to the guys like that are in 10 states running, operating. We all have a lot to learn, I'll tell you, especially with Minnesota, the growing patterns of Minnesota, and just the humidity problems and the cold problems and all the stuff that we're going to all learn. So I always tell people, you want to get into the cannabis business, just prepare yourself for the hardest job you've ever done in your life with no management.
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
you got to understand that if I'm a grower and you're a grower, you might grow awesome, but you might grow it a completely different way than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Your way's not wrong, my way's not right. But you got to be able to manage the chaos of not knowing any of the path.
Yeah.
And trusting that it's going to work because of your heart and passion. Like I tell people, if you don't have the passion for cannabis, it'll eat you up. It don't even, if you're getting into it for the money, don't. It's a long road to the money, right?
Yeah.
But it's a absolutely life-changing road to take on an experiment as far as if you have the passion for cannabis and you do it. Because like I tell everybody, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer. If you go into work every single day as a lawyer and you hate everybody that's a lawyer and a judge, man, life's going to be tough.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so for us, we get to walk into plants, and plants, they want to be happy every day. We just got to listen to them.
I love that. I love the perspective of letting your passion guide what the next step is.
That is, because I've failed 85% in cannabis more than I've succeeded. But if you have the failures and learn from them and put it into the success part of it, you only need to succeed a couple times to your failures.
Absolutely.
Because you only have to put fuel on the fire one time or two times, and it works as far as financial goes. And then if you have the basis of who you are as an individual, and you're not trying to find ways to skirt laws, but really to cooperate and to consistently abide by them, it becomes really simple to be successful in the space. But it's a huge mountain to climb, right? It's financial risk, it's knowing risk, because everyone's like, oh, well, weed, you can just grow it, it's easy, it's this and that. It's like, part of that's right. But for the stuff that I smoke, it takes a little bit more than that. Like,
absolutely. The plant will grow. Will you want to smoke what it grows?
That's 100% right.
Yeah. So take us forward a little bit. One thing that I often hear from people, especially right after Island Peze started selling vape carts, is, oh, this is hemp. Yep. This isn't going to be what I want to buy.
Sure.
What might you say to someone who maybe is still caught up in that classic hemp, cannabis, two separate plant mindset?
Go smoke it.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
I mean, that's as easy as it comes. Like I tell people all the time, like, we have hemp derived distillate basically that comes out of the cannabis plant or out of the hemp plant and stuff like that. And I tell people I could show you a taste test like you do with vodka, for example. Vodka, you have 10 of the best flavors, and there's some people out there that really can tell that, right? And there's some people that can't. And that's what I tell everybody. 90% of cannabis users in a recreational market have no idea. They've never used it, and they're going to take an edible, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, whatever they get, and it's going to do something. And they're going to either A, like that feeling, or B, they're not. And if they don't, they're never going to have to use it again because it's like, I tried that, I don't want to do it again, right? But the people that do, then it gets to be like, now, okay, hey, this is cool, this is an edible, this is a drink, this is a joint, this is a blunt, this is a bong, this is a, whatever.
The whole spectrum.
It is, and that's why I tell everybody is like, well, how much can you smoke, Kurt? Well, as much as I need to stop having the pain that I have at the time. I'm not just smoking just to smoke, right? I'm a medical user. And have I smoked to smoke? Sure. We all have. And have I probably smoked too much at times, sitting there watching a football game or something like? Sure, probably. Just like, 9 out of 10 people who have drank alcohol longer than a few months, right, have probably overindulged. And that's okay. I tell everybody it's okay. But the one thing I will say with THC, when you overindulge, it tends to be a lot harsher in the morning to be like, oh my God, I feel like, what the heck is going on? Whereas alcohol, you expect a hangover. You expect the hangover to dissipate. People don't with cannabis, right? They're like, oh, I never thought I would have a hangover. I never thought I'd have this. Yeah. And you do. And then we go tell them exactly what it is and why it is and why this and why that. And they either listen or they don't, even in our retail stores, right? They tell people you're going to take a 10 milligram CBN gummy with 25 milligrams of CBD, and you take it at 9 o'clock at night and you go to bed at 9:30. Like, you're never going to feel it. You're never going to understand what it truly does. And then you're going to wake up in the morning and feeling some type of way, and you're like, there's no value. I'm like, take it 2 hours before bed. Enjoy it. Enjoy the relaxation. Enjoy the feel of what it is. Let your body understand that you're responding to your body. If you need more, take more. If you need less, take less. And that's really becoming what it.
We're in such an early time in the industry where, like, imagine going into a liquor store and the person working there is like, so have you ever drank alcohol before? Like, well, I'd start with about this much and wait 30 minutes. And like, we just don't have that mindset around alcohol. Whereas I think so much of cannabis is put on the retailers, the distributors, the reps, whoever is supplying the cannabis to actually educate the consumer on like, well, how do you use this?
Well, and that's a great statement, because bud tenders at the dispensaries, like I tell everybody that's getting into the business, you want to be the best, just educate your bud tenders. If you educate your bud tenders and I come into that store, I'm going to be the happiest dude you've ever met in your life, because being in cannabis 22 plus years, I still don't know a lot of things. And I sure as heck don't know what your best strains are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like your best strains are your best strains. So I go in everywhere like I do into a restaurant. Like, what's your best thing on the menu? What do you think is the best thing? Every single time I pick Platinum OG, done. I'll take an eighth of that. Gary Payton, I'll take an eighth of that. You know what I mean? And I really do that to any market that I go into and see there's $100 eighth on the shelf. I'm buying it. Not because I want to get killed over $100 eighth, but I want to see if you're charging $100 an eighth, it better be something special.
Yeah.
Like really special. But I do it being in the industry to see what is so special. 9 out of 10 times it's marketing. So, you know what I mean? Joke's on me, right? Because I'm the idiot who's
the special thing is really cool packaging. Yeah, exactly.
So I think just that alone can really drive the passion of of cannabis as a whole, because it really is an open road. Like, there is no marketing tricks yet. There is no Coors Light, if you will. There is no, Anheuser-Busch yet. That is an industry that we're all working together to try to put our stamp on the mix of, like, hey, we want to be the very best. Like in our groups, in our business, we always quote Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last, right? So I mean, we have a desire to be the very best. And with that comes haters, and it comes people that don't want us to be the best, comes people that think we're full of shit, people that this and that. I don't care. I really don't. You can think whatever you want to think, but believe me, you won't outwork us, right? And you won't out-message us, which is teaming up with, guys like yourself and Steven with Canna Connect, and the other people, the Iron Range worker guys, the random connections that you meet in this, and then all of a sudden you figure out, like, wow, these guys are really cool. There's a different approach to this. There's a different this. And then it becomes this just kind of melting pot for success, right? Because you can take 10 guys in a row, and if they all have the same thing, I mean, I'll take that over any CEO, any smart Ivy League. Give me 10 farmers that know what they want. It's over. I mean, it's over. So that's kind of our MO on the whole cannabis space is, if you want it and you got the passion for it and you believe in it and you trust yourself, you can move mountains.
You can do it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, so sort of wrapping up today, if people were to stop by your store in Elk River, they stop by Cross Lake, they go to Off the Path, what might you recommend that they walk out with?
Off the Path, I keep telling the guys we need to do, like, old Chicago where they have like 200 beers or something. I was like, I think they have 12 strains at Off the Path right now on their shelves. And like I told them guys, we got to come up with something where when you try all the 12 strains and you review on them, that we give something to them that's of benefit or something.
Coming to the Northern Lights podcast soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So on some of those things, we're just everything's so new. They've been open for 10 days. So I tell them is like take 30 days, really get your policies, procedures into effect. Which, I mean, they have. There's not much consulting that we've done on any of their policies, procedures, what they're using for as far as like Dutchy and things like that. I mean, they're really on it. I mean, they really have done everything that we're helping them with. Their brands. Off the Path brand is going to be absolutely incredible. The Sean, the gentleman at Off the Path, him and Taylor are the guys that kind of run. They're kind of the 1-2 punch of it. And Sean's just a stud when it comes to packaging and or like the art of it. And so we teamed him up with our graphic design guys to be able to create the boxes and some of this stuff. And I mean, within a week, I mean, Sean did it. I mean, it's incredible. So Off the Path is, I mean, throw a dart, whatever it lands on, it's awesome. I mean, as far as Minnesota roots in our stores in Cross Lake and Elk River, I would say, our THC drinks, our Kush coolers are unbelievable. We just got Lunar drinks in, I think are phenomenal too. The guys at Lunar are super awesome dudes. and all the foundry stuff that we have, and then all of our gummies at Minnesota Roots. We have 260 SKUs that we make in house.
Cool. Okay.
So everything that we ever done is a vertical, from growing the hemp to extracting the hemp to putting it in our products and things like that. So we truly have a vertical on what it is. So like I always tell everybody, try our products, and if they're bad, call me and yell at me, because
Gotcha.
I'm the one who put it into place. So
We'll put your phone number in the show notes below, so people know. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So if people stop by MN Roots, definitely give your products a try.
Yeah, try the Minnesota Roots gummies, the Kush coolers, no doubt. And then we have a ton of awesome, a lot of the legal mushroom stuff, from the Treehouse mushrooms to our in-house brands of mushrooms as well, which is Spores MD. And I think we have 1,150 SKUs in the stores.
Okay.
So it's just definitely, and if you're uneducated about cannabis, go in those stores, because they will educate you. You can ask all the questions. You have direct, everyone's trained by me personally. So I don't, the excuse of like, oh, they're new, that they won't be on the floor if they're new. Like, we really take a lot of pride in cannabis education, because I've been told so much wrong stuff in cannabis, and it's just, it's tough to follow a path if you don't have the truth.
Yeah. Well, thanks for helping to make our industry more educated, helping to get high quality products out to people, and helping to, get our tribes off the ground and running. It's cool to see this industry start to come together.
Absolutely.
So Curtis Wright, co-owner of MN Roots, thanks so much for coming in the studio today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, we'll be right back. I just wish there was some way that I could tell people that I lived in Minnesota, that I liked cannabis, and that I was a listener of the Northern Lights podcast. There is Northern Lights merch.
Dope.
You can get yours today. mncannabiscollege.org/Northern Lights. Get your shirts, get your mugs. Check it out. Get it all today. And we're back. Welcome to another segment of Tanner's Terp Tasting. I'm here with Steve.
What's up, Tanner?
So excited to be here. Back at the Dabbler Depot, ready to do some terp tasting.
So, like some dabs?
Absolutely. That's what we're here to do. Now, this is a jar that I got actually just very recently here. Shout out to Candy Cuts. I was at a sesh that they were hosting, and they had some tea squisher jars, and had to pick this one up. Anytime I see that word sour at the beginning of a cultivar name, I know it's probably going to be something I like.
Candy Cuts is OG.
Yeah, for sure.
They know what they're doing. I'm glad to hear it. So this is like brand new. You just grabbed on this.
Absolutely. Just grabbed there. It was cool walking in and having people be like, oh, hey, Tanner from Northern Lights. And like,
Yeah.
Oh, shit, yeah. So thanks for watching. But
You've been holding it down. We're on episode 10.
oh, we're crushing it through season 2.
You're 10 for 10.
Absolutely. And so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at the jar. We're going to be tasting the terps. We're going to be just ranking what we think of it. Now, we have a very complicated proprietary ranking system here that we are ranking it on the token system. So 0 through 10. I've not done a 0 dab yet, but we keep trying.
Last one came in between like 7 and 8.
Yeah, right at that 7.5 mark. We actually got that jar still here. So now we're here for terp tasting number 2. So let's first start by talking about the outside of the jar. This is Tea Squisher, not a local brand here in Minnesota, but one that's become pretty well known. They've got that Grateful Dead heady right on the top of the jar. In fact, let's go ahead and hold up the jar here so we can get that shot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Beautiful artwork on the outside of this. Very much Grateful Dead inspired. You can tell not only because of the Grateful Dead Steely right on the top of it, but also because of the artwork all around. It just very much gives me the vibes of I'm at like a 1970s jam band concert, and they weren't ripping dabs at those concerts, that's for sure, but we're going to be doing that today.
Dabs came about like throughout recent history, right?
Yeah, for sure. So cannabis concentrates go back a super long time. I mean, people have been making hash for centuries, but the modern invention of rosin, you can sort of trace back to like the 1970s. Pretty accidental invention. In fact, there's a great story of people trying to vacuum seal a bunch of weed, getting weed stuck in between the hot press of that. Suddenly you have hot oil coming out. People were, putting it into bowls. And then the early days. Today we've come so far, so I'm excited to have this jar with us.
Yeah, I mean, I've known you for a number of years. I probably could have assumed you were a Grateful Dead fan, but it's through this podcast that I've learned like you really have an affinity for the Grateful Dead. R.I.P. We just lost a original member of the Dead.
Absolutely, yeah. Rest in peace, Phil. They're incredible bass player. Yeah. So we'll do some dabs for Phil today. We'll just rip them hard.
And I want to say, also learning through the podcast, you're a big papaya fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So papaya is one of those cultivars that's become really well known in the concentrate community. A, because it has a really unique terp profile. People like sort of that fruity, tropical flavor. But also because it's a dumper. You know, you grow a bunch of weed, and if you go and wash it, sometimes the end result is just a really low yield.
Okay.
Just because of the genetics.
Right.
Papaya is one that is just known to be a little bit on that heavier side. So it's become pretty well known. And that sour twist to it, I really, really love.
Word.
So we're going to be... let's bust into it. So I'll let you go ahead and open up that jar.
Okay.
We're gonna start by just talking about what we think of the smell. You know, the outside of the jar is cool, but we're here really for what's on the inside. What do you think of that like initial whiff off the jar now that's open?
It smells like barf.
Okay, there we go. Yep, and that's that sour, almost rancid elements of it coming through.
Mixed with like something that I don't love seeing on the street when you walk by and it's like, oh, that looks like dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pineapple, papaya elements of it, sort of with that sour, blend together to be like a little bit urine-y. Like, I don't know. Sometimes people like those terps, and I'm so excited to bring them in to share with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the background. Sour papaya is a cross between Citral 13 and Ice number 2. It gives it that slightly sour, very tropical notes that we were just smelling on, and that we're gonna do a dab of here.
So when you cross two strains, you can take strain 1 and strain 2. You don't have to make it like strain 1 plus strain 2 as the name. You can multiply the two crosses and create a third name.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's sort of where some of the art, the fun comes in of creating the names is, sometimes you get two crosses that come together that just create something brand new. In fact, sometimes names of cultivars are actually the names of just one specific cut. Like Super Boof becomes super popular recently. Not actually its own cultivar. Super Boof is just a cut of blackberry. And so it's fun to dig into the deep. But let's try some sour
Where would
papaya.
we be without our growers?
Right. Now, last week we tried the Ope solventless. That jar was almost empty by the time that we tried it. Yep. This one, I was really good. I only opened it and took a little bit of a smell first. So this is my first time that we get to dab it up. I'm excited for us to really jump into this. It's got great texture.
And let's just give a big thanks to the Dabbler Depot for allowing us to dab it up during Tanner's terpene tasting sesh.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to
Dabbler Depot. Shout out to Puffco.
Yeah.
You can find all these things here, minus the dab.
Yeah. Yeah, so for those listening along to the audio version, let's explain about what we're doing. We just used our hot knife to load a dab of this sour papaya into our Puffco. We're going to be heating that up here. Shout out low temp dabs, Gotta love keeping it at temp.
Right.
And then also for all of our ASMR fans, we're going to be doing that dab real close to the microphone.
Okay.
ASMR fans, please write in. We got to know that you're out there. We'll keep doing this, though, so... There you go, my friend.
Thank you, Tanner. I will make sure to ASMR this.
That is offensive.
Whoa.
Yeah. So excited to bring in anything with that sour background of this, and this is sour.
It's sour in the mouth, but it also like conquers the eyes right away. It's like pushing on that eye pressure right away. That's how you know it's a strong dab.
Oh yeah.
And then the lung, the lung feel, the eye feel, the mouth feel. That it's so interesting, like consuming concentrates and consuming high grade cannabis, because it's sensory overload at times. Like it hits you in multiple places: nose, mouth, chest, eyes.
Oh yeah, I remember back in the early days of me getting into concentrates when I thought hot dabs were the way to go. I was like, wow, dabs just make me sweat so much. It's like all over my body.
Yes.
And then I learned it was doing dabs at like 700 degrees that makes your whole body sweat. Puffco helps a little bit with that, that's for sure.
Okay.
All right, so now comes, we've done the dab, we've done the tasting. Now we're going to do the Q-tip test. You can tell a lot about the quality of rosin by looking at what actually is left behind when you're doing that dab. So we've got our Q-tip here.
This is residue left over?
Yeah, so it's little bits of oil, little bits of, maybe little bits of burnt material in that. That comes from having tiny, tiny particles of the plant still left in there. Comes from making hash, you know, it's not anything super terrible. This actually isn't super dark, and we put a pretty big sized dab in there. So not anything that's super bad.
Thanks, Tanner.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Thank you. So now comes the sort of the tricky part. We've done the dab, we've looked at the jar, we've done the smelling, the tasting. We've said, yeah, that's funky. But now we got to rank it. We've got our 10-point scale. Where are we going to put this jar? Steve, if you had to rank this on our token scale, how many tokens are you giving this today?
I'm giving 2 tokens to 4 people. I'm giving this an 8.
All right. An 8. I love that. Yeah, I think I got to agree with you. I'm going in exactly at that 8.2. I think the sour notes of this are truly pungent. Yes, a little bit on that nose, but really, really on the tongue. So I'm stoked about this one. Steve, well, thanks so much for joining for that dab here. Shout out to T Squisher for the incredible jar. Shout out to Candy Cuts for helping to make this all happen. If you guys have tried this, definitely drop in the comments below. What do you think of it? Was this something that you thought was nice and sour or a bit too sour? Or if you have some suggestions on other things we should try on this show, drop that as well. Or slide into my DMs. We always are loving to try new things on Tanner's Terp Tasting. So thanks for coming for another segment, and we'll be right back. We're back. All right, guys. Well, it's been another week. Time for another high note.
A week of wonder.
Right?
A week of something.
A week of something. What have you guys been thinking about this week? Well, you've been packing your bowl, dabbing your dabs, loading your vapes. What have you been
I've been thinking
of?
about casinos and cannabis.
Okay. All right. Tell me more. So, thinking about the connection of the two together?
Yeah, the hospitality around the travel to get out to these tribal dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones legally allowed to be open right now.
Yeah, that's true. But how are people getting there? I see what you're talking about. The whole, if you're coming all this way,
Travel
what are you going to do
and
to
tourism.
get there? Have you ever gambled high before?
I've gambled maybe 5 times
Okay.
in my whole life. So, yes, I do remember one night gambling high. I'd rather just go to the casino
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's super fair.
because I think where I'm going is cannabis is more chill than alcohol, and casinos have been associated with alcohol
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. So we now have cannabis, and that could lead to hotels and trips. You know, name your activity, and you could probably do that at one of these recreational casino and dispensary locations.
Yeah, totally.
$75 at Fountain Bay Resort for a premium night stay. Comes with $20 worth of gambling tokens. So, 20 tokens, $75 for a night. That's an affordable night trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I can buy cannabis.
Cannabis-centric tourism.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Ishkade Cannabis coming soon.
Yeah. Fire.
Could we play poker, but instead of using poker chips, we have different jars, and then you get to keep the
Yeah.
jars? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Casinos and gambling, like, I don't know, maybe I would go. You know, I don't like to go, but I'd like to explore Minnesota.
A cool fact: I've never lost money at a casino.
Have you ever got money at a casino?
Twice.
That's okay.
Hey, clap it up for Tanner.
And then I haven't gone back in about 5 years because I'm afraid to break that. Well, if you want to donate to the Cannabis Industry Startup Fund, we're going to take all of our money and put it on black. And who knows, we might have the best small craft cannabis industry in the entire country.
What are you thinking about?
What am I thinking about? Really, what I've been thinking about a lot this week is what are some of those weird, maybe more abstract terp profiles that you're chasing? You know, I got that sour papaya that we tried a little bit earlier, and it got me thinking about like the gnarly, sort of rancid type dabs that I've done. A black onion is another one that like sticks out in my mind. It's just like, just like rancid. But if you could just, you know, out of thin air, create weed that smelled or tasted like something, what would you make it taste like? Shout out to my homie Aaron. I asked him yesterday, and he said like grandparents' breath. Like he wants dabs that just like you open, and it's just like, okay. What about you guys?
Darkness.
Darkness.
I'm more fruit forward. I'm gonna go citrus.
All right, there you go. I like orange.
Yeah, the unctuous terp profiles. Like I understand the correlation between uncsosity and just sheer dankness. You know, I don't want to smell my grandma's breath before taking a big inhale.
You think there is that line between unctuous and dank?
Yeah, I mean, dank feels more fresh, like more like I say, like in my mind, like piney.
Okay,
But unctuous, I think of like, oh, that's ammonia. It's not my. It's not the one I'm. Yeah, 3 of those, please. You know.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I smoked a grandparent's dab this week.
Okay.
So there
So
was
you got a
there
bit
was
of their
grandpa's breath on my dab.
There we go.
from the source too. That's homegrown right there, farm to table.
How did it taste?
It was nice. Shout out to Puffco.
There you go. Shout out to Buffco. Incredible. What is something that you're chasing though? What's like a terp profile that maybe you like strawberry you're looking for? Maybe you want something that's like more of a mango papaya. You're looking for something that's really cushy, or what gets you going?
I'm stumped on that.
Okay,
I'm
that's
shouting out to Overt Sloth.
All right.
Whatever Overt Sloth's growing, I'm dry or vaporizing.
Oh, well, I think we've got the same plants in each of our tents right now, some of that truffle cake. And what you're looking for is rotten sock. That is
That's right.
That is how I feel about that plant. And, oh, man, I'm at like week 3 right now, and it is starting to come where you open the tent, and it's like, oh, okay, yep. That's fun.
There he goes. There he goes.
Yum,
Yeah.
yum, yum, yum.
Just to add in my own personal thoughts, any rotten fruit, like where you open the jar and it smells like something has gone terribly wrong in the process, I love that.
I had a Bartlett pear this week. That was
Okay.
very, very nice.
Did you smoke out of it or just eat it?
No,
normally?
I got it for $1.99 a pound.
Okay.
I got 2 Bartlett pears. Very good right now. So I would say I've also been having pear terps.
There we
Because
go.
terps are abound.
In everything.
Yes.
Everything's a terp. Butane's a terp. No, it's not. It's an old school joke.
Shout out to Grandma.
Yeah.
that nice roasty taste.
Yeah. I like when it sizzles. All right. Jordan, round us out. What have you been thinking about this week? What is your high thought for the week?
So my high thought has honestly been a culmination of years worth of similar thoughts, and that's for those who don't know, I am a professional photographer and videographer, and so I look at my life through a camera lens mostly.
Oh, he's a good guy to run our cameras.
These guys,
Yeah.
these little doohickeys.
Those
However,
terps.
I naturally gravitate toward like nature and landscape photography. I love when sunlight is doing something on a forest or doing something in a field or reflecting off of a lake. Like So I find these moments are happening a lot while I am traveling, having just smoked or ingested or something. And I am traveling past these scenes that I'm like, oh my God, I need to stop. Or, oh my God, I wish I had a camera that is more than just my phone. And that made me start thinking about, like, what are moments in your life that you're like, oh God, I wish I could pause everything else happening right now to focus on this thing. Do you guys have those moments? I know me as a photographer, I'm looking for slices of visual,
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
so are there things in your guys' lives that you
I found
that you find repeatedly, like, pull you out of, like, whatever moment, but in a good way, in a honestly productive way, in terms of your creativity or your processing?
For me, that was biking around Uptown for 4 years and really just releasing and riding and seeing the nature and just loving Minneapolis, the chain of lakes, and being so close to Uptown. I just really took advantage of it when I could. And now in St. Paul, I don't bike, and it's a completely different vibe. And occasionally I'll get on the bike, but like for now, it's like, no, I am driving though. I am the driver of our family right now, and so like, but not as much as I used to, I would say. But how old are you, Jordan?
Say again?
How old are you?
31.
31. I was doing biking at 31. Like, I was just loving that.
You were biking Ken? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am biking. Biking Ken. I'm camera Ken. Tanner, you're dab Ken.
I take that as a badge of honor.
You should. Absolutely.
My little Ken doll comes with a mini Puffco.
Puffco sponsor this podcast.
Please. Please.
Why haven't we reached out to them?
Because we like when people reach out to us. Which, by the way, Tanner at mncannabiscollege.org, Steve at mncannabiscollege.org, Jordan at mncannabiscollege.org. Reach out to us. We'd love to get in touch.
Tanner, what moments in your life do you?
Yeah, so I think when I was just like getting out of high school, going into college, I was so convinced that it was nature, like going out into nature, finding the moments where I wasn't surrounded by other people, and just sort of like taking in the universe. I used to love, I have a telescope, and my favorite thing that I used to do is go and try to find dark areas and just look at different things that I could find. Sometimes you'd see a planet. Sometimes they would just be looking up at stars and sort of taking that all in. But I think as I've gotten a bit older, not yet 31, but a little bit older, I think the moments that I've been taking in more are when I'm surrounded by like my people. Like it's been cool being able to, travel with my wife and talk about cannabis consumption sort of all around Minnesota and go on trips to other states and enjoy the cannabis culture there. And, it's going out into nature is cool. Traveling is cool. All of that is really cool. But it's having the people around you that you're doing that with that I think makes it extra special. So, I think, if I look through my phone, like a lot of the pictures I take is of the people around me. And not that I don't like nature. It's all right.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's the context in which you find yourselves that you got to find the serenity amongst the calamity. And for me, unfortunately, most of the time it's staring out my windshield or side windows being like, God, I wish I could take a picture. And we're gone. I wish I could just stop that time. Everybody else behind me stops their cars. We all just hit pause for a second. I just step out of my moving vehicle, take a few pictures. And
well, we're excited to launch the new Northern Lights video series where it's just going to be 12-hour loops of Jordan driving across the state of Minnesota.
And it's just a selfie. It's just looking at me while I'm...
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Do you play video games?
I go through phases where there will be a video game I just am fixated on, and some last longer than others, like Rocket League. Give me 5 minutes of just chaos or organized chaos pandemonium. Like, I know what to expect. I know what the task is. I find myself less gravitating toward like puzzle problem solving games, just because I don't have the patience. I don't see the value in like solving those types of games. But no, to answer your question, I wouldn't say I'm a video gamer.
Me neither. Just wondering like where you're getting release from, right? Because obviously you can't stop the car
right
in the moment. You can show up though. You can show up with your friends and do stuff, and that's the best time to bring the camera out, is to really relish and enjoy the memories.
Yeah. The thing is I operate with these types of cameras, and when these types of cameras come out, people are like, oh, like people see this type of camera and they're like, oh, there's a camera, the capital C camera around. And for being a professional photographer, I'm really bad at capturing my life's moments, but that's okay. Like I'm not paid to capture my life's moments. So to answer your question, I get my release from these recording sessions, and from on Wednesday we were here shooting a product feature for a brand that we're very in alignment with from a business standpoint. And me and my colleague Addo spent 6 hours just doing B-roll product photography over there. And it's it's important for me to set aside that intentional time to be creative, because the world, at least that I live in, doesn't facilitate me having organized free time to be creative for being creative's sake. Thankfully, my job brings a certain level of free form creativity.
We live in Minnesota in 2024. There's room for the Dabbler Depot in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Say hello to gas stations and THC beverages. Here we are.
Yeah.
Dabbler Depot.
Dabbler Depot, 3 Twin Cities locations: South Minneapolis, West 7th in St. Paul, and on the east side on Payne Avenue. Seed and Sesh. DabblerDepot.com.
There we go. All right, guys. Well,
my boss is sitting out here, so
I know he's gonna be so thrilled. Shout out, man.
Making sure,
shout out to that.
Just making sure we're ticking those boxes, folks.
There we go.
Pay our bills.
Pay the bills. All right. Well, that's all we got for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening along. As we said, shout out to Dabbler Depot, as always, for hosting us. We'll be back in your feeds next week. In the meantime, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube, Blue Sky, maybe? I don't know. And subscribe. Definitely make sure to follow along. We're dropping YouTube videos all the time. In fact, sometimes even multiple videos a day. So make sure to subscribe, and we'll keep that content coming. And share it with our friends. We always love being able to, have people have conversations around Northern Lights, and, share it with your family. Share it with your friends. Share it in a group chat with a random phone number you've never talked to before.
We're coming up on Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
And Tanner, I think you mentioned you have some very specific plans for how you're going to really activate your family this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's the cousin walk, the cool cousins that maybe go out before Thanksgiving lunch, and they're just going out. And this is a call to action to everyone. Include your grandparents in that walk this year. Really try to change the conversation around cannabis. Don't just have it be the cool cousins going out for a smoke. Grandma wants to smoke too.
Yeah, don't be a turkey.
Don't be
Hey, fuck you, man. That was funny.
No, that was very good. We're going to go.
Don't be a turkey. That was really good. All right. Yeah. So that's our call to action. It's for people. If you're doing Thanksgiving with your family, we definitely know not everyone is a celebrator of that holiday, but if you are, definitely make sure to bring a little bit of cannabis into that celebration.
And tell them Tanner said, don't be a turkey.
Don't be a turkey. That's going to be... Should we get a shirt with that on it?
Are we selling merch? How's our merch store doing?
It's
Wait, first of all, where do you even find the Northern Lights merch store?
Okay, I have an idea. I want to put merch on the YouTube channel.
okay.
There's a way we can do it. It's called the shopping tab
Here we go.
in YouTube Studio.
Okay. So if people are watching YouTube right now, they're at their computer, they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Could they click a button and maybe go and find that?
Yeah, and it'd be a really easy way to go shopping at the Minnesota Cannabis College for the Minnesota Cannabis College, support the Northern Lights podcast. I think YouTube makes it really easy. Shout out to Google.
So we'll have our flag shirts, we'll have our logo shirts, and then we'll also have a shirt that says, "Don't be a turkey." Maybe get grandma in the blunt rotation.
And I think it's just a clip art version of a turkey, but the little gobbly thing is just an upside down pot leaf.
Perfect. We're gonna work on this off camera, y'all. So go check out our page. Go check out, if it's not on YouTube yet, it will be soon. So definitely be sure to stick around. get our merch. Otherwise, you can check out mncannabiscollege.org/Northern Lights and get to the same type of stuff. Wow, guys, what a good week.
Good episode, fellas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
We'll be
thank
back
you all for listening. Yeah.
next week.
Next week.
Shout out to North Star Law Group for sponsoring our podcast. I
Absolutely.
think they're coming up soon again.
Yeah. Shout out to Union Bank and Trust. Shout out to some of our incredible partners. We're really happy to have y'all along with the ride. For those of you still listening along, drop in the comments below. What are you up to? What do you want us to do on this show? We always love to try new stuff.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Talk to y'all soon. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan Whiff. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan Whiff. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.